It is 11:38 p.m. The Persian Gulf northwest of Kuwait is shallow water, 40-50 feet in places, the kind of depth that makes submarine operations impractical and surface navigation demanding, and the geometry of a nighttime replenishment evolution, the kind of problem that requires precision of a fundamentally different order than open ocean operations. The water here is warmer than the Arabian Sea. It holds heat the way enclosed spaces hold heat, releasing it slowly into air that smells of petroleum and salt and the specific industrial odor of a working military logistics zone operating under wartime conditions. The Combat Logistics Force vessel has been holding station for 6 hours. It is not a warship. It is the floating backbone of the strike group's ability to continue operations, a replenishment ship carrying ordnance, fuel, and provisions, whose presence in the Persian Gulf is not optional, but is, under current operational conditions, a vulnerability. A logistics ship at anchor or holding station in restricted waters is a ship that is not maneuvering. A ship that is not maneuvering is a ship that cannot avoid what is coming at it. The crews that operate these vessels understand this in the specific, professional way of people who have chosen a mission that puts them in the path of threats they cannot shoot back at. Tonight, the logistics vessel is conducting a nighttime ammunition transfer to the guided missile destroyer that has been alongside for 47 minutes. The transfer is moving at the pace that ordnance handling protocols require. Controlled, deliberate, each round and each container moving across the connected span between the two ships in a sequence that cannot be accelerated without introducing a risk category that the protocols exist to prevent. The transfer is 61% complete. The destroyer's forward VLS cells are being replenished with SM-3 Block 2A rounds, the same rounds the strike group has been expending at a rate that prompted this replenishment operation to be scheduled on an expedited basis. The rounds are necessary. The operation to transfer them cannot be rushed. These two facts are in tension, and the tension is managed by the crews of both ships with the kind of disciplined patience that is, in the operational vocabulary of naval logistics, called professionalism, and is, in the physical experience of doing it, called holding your nerve. At 11:41 p.m., the destroyer's SPY-1D radar detects surface contacts to the northwest. The contacts are small. Radar cross-section consistent with waterborne platforms in the 1 to 2 meter class, too small for crewed vessels, too large for debris. They emerge from a position near the Kuwaiti-Iraqi maritime boundary, an area that the intelligence picture has flagged as a potential Houthi-affiliated small boat staging location for the past 72 hours, but that has produced no confirmed threat activity until this moment. The contacts are moving at 38 knots on a direct bearing to the connected ship formation. There are 7 of them. Then 9, as 2 additional return separate from a radar shadow near a coastal structure. 9 contacts at 38 knots. At current closure rate, they will reach the connected formation in 11 minutes and 20 seconds. 11 minutes and 20 seconds. The ordnance transfer is 61% complete. The 2 ships are connected by transfer rigs, steel cables, cargo pendants, phone and distance lines that physically link them and that cannot be released instantaneously. The emergency breakaway procedure for connected replenishment takes a minimum of 4 minutes under optimal conditions. Under current conditions, with ordnance in transfer, with cables under tension, with personnel on both weather decks managing the evolution, the breakaway will take longer. The tactical action officer aboard the destroyer receives the contact report at 11:41:44 p.m. and initiates the emergency breakaway sequence at 11:41:51 p.m. 7 seconds from report to decision. The decision is correct, and it is also, in the arithmetic of what follows, insufficient. The breakaway call goes to both ships simultaneously. The transfer crews on both weather decks begin the emergency sequence. Personnel are cleared from the transfer stations. Cargo pendants are released from their outboard positions. The phone and distance line goes slack, but the high line carrying the last SM-3 container, a container that is halfway across the span between the 2 ships, suspended above the dark water on a cable that is under the full tension of the connected formation's relative motion, cannot be released until the container is secured on one side or the other. It cannot be released in 4 seconds. The evolution continues because stopping it in the middle is its own category of risk. At 11:43 p.m., the destroyer's forward 5-inch gun mount trains to bearing and begins engaging the lead contacts. The 5-inch round is not optimally designed for the radar cross-section of a 1-meter surface drone. It is over-engineered in some ways and limited in others, but it is what the ship has available at the ranges involved, and it begins firing. The first round impacts the water near the lead contact. The second is closer. The third, the fire control system has refined the solution, the mount has adjusted, the third round finds the first contact, and the thermal camera on the Seahawk, which has been scrambled from its deck spot and is climbing through 400 feet at 11:43:22 p.m., shows the contact disappear. 8 remain. 8 contacts at current closure rate are 4 minutes and 40 seconds from the connected formation. The CIWS systems on both ships are in active tracking mode. The logistics vessel's phalanx, mounted on the forward superstructure, has acquired 5 contacts and is building engagement solutions in the mechanical patience of a system that does not register urgency and does not require a human being to pull a trigger. The destroyer's portside CIWS has acquired 3 contacts on the northern axis of approach. The coverage geometry is not clean. The connected formation creates a physical constraint on the CIWS engagement arcs, the ship's own hulls masking portions of the threat sector from systems that need a clear line to the waterline to engage surface targets effectively. This is the geometric problem the adversary has exploited. A connected replenishment formation cannot maneuver. Its defensive systems are partially masked by its own configuration. The drones approaching from the northwest are approaching from the sector where the destroyer's hull provides partial masking to the logistics vessel's phalanx. Someone understood this when they planned the attack. Someone studied the replenishment formation geometry and found the seam. At 11:44 p.m., the highline transfer completes. The last SM-3 container reaches the destroyer's deck and is secured by the handling team. The breakaway sequence accelerates. The remaining cables begin releasing. The 2 ships are still physically connected by the fuel hose on the after-transfer station, fuel that was not part of tonight's primary evolution, but that was being topped off as a secondary transfer. The fuel hose disconnect requires a controlled sequence to prevent a spill event. The sequence takes 90 seconds. The contacts are now 3 minutes and 10 seconds away. The Seahawk reaches its patrol position at 600 feet at 11:44:31 p.m. The lead pilot activates the forward infrared camera, and the image on the cockpit display shows 9 contacts, the 9th having appeared during the transit from the deck, moving across dark water in a loose formation, their wakes white and spreading, their thermal signatures consistent with propulsion systems running at maximum power. They are not flying. They are surface platforms, riding the water at high speed, and the lead pilot has about 4 seconds to decide what his next action is. He activates the laser designator and paints the lead contact. The designation feeds the destroyer's fire control system. The 5-inch mount shifts solution. The second contact in the formation is already inside the 5-inch gun's optimal surface engagement range. The mount fires. The round connects. The contact's thermal signature expands briefly, a fuel cell ignition, and then contracts into a burning patch on the water that the Seahawk's camera watches drift astern of the formation. 7 active contacts, 3 minutes and 40 seconds before the closest of them reaches the logistics vessel. At 11:45 p.m., the fuel hose disconnect completes. The breakaway clears. The destroyer begins pulling ahead, increasing speed, creating the separation from the logistics vessel that restores its defensive maneuverability. But increasing speed creates a new problem. The CIWS coverage arc that was masked by the connected configuration is now opening. The destroyer's movement is rotating the defensive geometry, exposing sectors that were previously masked. But the rotation takes time and the contacts are closing, and there are still 7 of them, and the sector that is opening is doing so at a rate that is slower than the rate at which the contacts are approaching. This is the desperation move. Not a secondary attack wave, not a hidden asset, but the specific timing of the primary attack against the moment of maximum constraint, the 11-minute window when the formation was connected and vulnerable, and the defensive geometry was compromised by the evolution that made the strike group operational again. The Houthi command did not send these drones at the carrier, did not send them at the destroyer on open water, sent them at the two-ship formation during the replenishment window that the signals intelligence network had confirmed was underway, sent them at the logistics vessel because a logistics vessel with ordnance aboard is a fundamentally different target than a warship, and because the loss of a logistics vessel in the Persian Gulf during an active campaign is a strategic event of a different magnitude than the loss of a combatant. At 11:45:33 p.m., the first contact reaches the engagement range of the logistics vessel's forward phalanx. The CIWS fires. The burst catches the contact at 1,100 meters, and the drone disintegrates in a pattern of fragments that scatter across the water's surface and produce no secondary detonation. The contact was carrying a shaped charge, not a large one, but sufficient to rupture hull plating on a lightly constructed logistics vessel if it reached the waterline. It does not reach the waterline. It reaches the phalanx's burst at 1,100 meters, and that is the end of its mission. The second contact angles north, attempting to come around the bow of the logistics vessel where the phalanx coverage has a geometric dead zone created by the bow wave and the low freeboard of the forward hull. The destroyer's CIWS, now partially unmasked by the separation distance, engages from the north axis. The burst fires at 900 meters. The contact takes hits but continues. A larger airframe, more structural mass, absorbing the first burst without losing propulsion. The second burst fires at 600 meters. The contact stops. Its momentum carries its wreckage another 80 meters through the water before it loses enough speed to sink. It sinks 520 meters off the logistics vessel's port bow. 5 contacts remaining. 2 minutes. The Seahawk positions ahead of the logistics vessel on the northwest bearing, the primary threat axis, and at 11:46 p.m., the lead pilot does something that will appear in the engagement report as a positioning decision and will feel to the pilots and crew reviewing it afterward, like considerably more than that. He drops to 200 feet. At 200 feet over dark Gulf water, at night, the Seahawk's forward landing light activates and paints the water ahead of the approaching contacts. The light is visible to every contact in the formation. It is visible to the logistics vessel's bridge crew. It is visible to the destroyer's bridge crew. It is not a weapon. It is a marker, a position assertion, a statement in the language of presence that says, "I am here, I can see you, and the ships behind me know exactly where you are." Whether this influences the behavior of autonomous surface drones that are guided by pre-programmed GPS waypoints and active radar seekers is a question that is genuinely uncertain. The drones do not deviate. They continue on their bearing, but the landing light illuminates them at 200 feet with enough intensity that the logistics vessel's deck-mounted optical tracker acquires all 5 remaining contacts simultaneously and passes refined bearing data to the phalanx fire control system with a quality that the radar return alone would not have produced at this range and sea state. The phalanx fires on 3 contacts in a sequence that takes 11 seconds. 3 contacts destroyed between 800 and 1,400 meters. 2 contacts survive into the final engagement band. The destroyer's CIWS fires on the northern contact at 11:46:44 p.m. The burst at 700 meters destroys it. The southern contact, the last one, the contact that has been on the outermost bearing of the formation, the one that the engagement sequence has addressed last because it was addressed in order of threat proximity, reaches 400 meters from the logistics vessel's port quarter before the logistics vessel's after phalanx acquires it and fires. The burst fires at 380 meters. The contact is destroyed at 310 meters. Its wreckage, still carrying significant kinetic energy from its 38-knot approach speed, crosses the remaining 310 meters of water as fragments and impacts the logistics vessel's hull plating at the waterline on the port quarter. The impact produces a sound that the crew inside the hull describes as a hammer strike on the steel, sharp, immediate, followed by the sound of metal on metal as the fragments redistribute their energy across the plating. No penetration. No flooding. The hull assessment completed 12 minutes later will find impact damage to 2 hull plates and a deformed but intact frame section. The structural integrity of the logistics vessel is not compromised, but the ordnance she is carrying, the SM-3 rounds she has transferred to the destroyer, and the rounds still in her magazine, is intact. The fuel she carries is intact. The crew of 31 personnel who have been at their emergency stations since 11:41 p.m. are uninjured. The replenishment that was 61% complete when the contact report arrived is 100% complete. The destroyer's forward VLS cells are full. At 11:48 p.m., 9 contacts entered the tactical picture. At 11:47:22 p.m., all 9 contacts had been removed from it. The engagement lasted 5 minutes and 38 seconds from first detection to last intercept. The logistics vessel has hull damage. The destroyer has expended 40 rounds of 5-inch ammunition and approximately 340 rounds of CIWS ammunition across both ship systems. The Seahawk has been airborne for 4 minutes and is repositioning to a standard surveillance orbit. The lead pilot turns off the landing light at 11:47:30 p.m. The Gulf is dark again. At 11:52 p.m., the logistics vessel's damage control team completes its initial assessment and reports to the master. The master transmits the damage report to Fifth Fleet. The report is 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph covers the hull damage. The second covers the ordnance and fuel status. Both intact, both fully operational, the transfer mission complete. The third paragraph is a single sentence requesting guidance on whether the vessel should remain on station or proceed to a protected anchorage for formal damage assessment. Fifth Fleet responds at 11:59 p.m. The logistics vessel is directed to proceed to the anchorage at Bahrain under destroyer escort for a formal structural survey. The survey will take 18 hours. During those 18 hours, the strike group will operate without its primary Persian Gulf Ordnance replenishment asset. The operations staff will adjust the sortie schedule and the VLS expenditure budget for the interim period. The adjustments will be made. They will constrain operations in ways that are measurable and that will appear in the campaign's operational cost accounting alongside the hull damage and the CIWS ammunition expenditure. The destroyer takes station 600 meters off the logistics vessel's port beam at 11:54 p.m., and the 2 ships begin moving south toward Bahrain. The Persian Gulf at this hour is dark in all directions except for the distant lights of the Kuwaiti coast to the northwest and the ambient glow of the Bahraini coastline to the south. The water between them is calm and black and contains no active threats on any radar picture in the theater. 9 contacts, 5 minutes and 38 seconds, 380 meters, 0 crew fatalities, 0 ordnance losses. 1 logistics vessel with hull damage proceeding under escort to a structural survey that will take 18 hours and will reveal, when completed, that the Persian Gulf's shallow waters and the IRGCN's persistent intelligence on American logistics operations have produced an adversary that is no longer targeting combatants first. It is targeting the system that keeps the combatants fighting. The destroyer cannot fight without its VLS cells filled. The VLS cells cannot be filled without the logistics vessel. The logistics vessel cannot operate without protection. The chain is only as strong as the replenishment window, the 4 minutes to 400 meters gap between connected and clear that the Houthi command found in the operational schedule and sent 9 drones into at 38 knots on a heading they calculated, and the crew of 2 ships addressed in 5 minutes and 38 seconds of controlled, precise, expensive violence. The rounds in the destroyer's forward cells cost what they cost. The 18 hours the logistics vessel will spend at survey cost what they cost. The strike group's capability tomorrow morning is the sum of those costs and the readiness of the crews who absorbed them tonight and will be back at their stations before the survey is finished. The Persian Gulf does not offer free passage. It offers the passage you can defend, at the price the defense requires, sustained for as long as the mission demands. Tonight, that price was paid in full. Tomorrow, it will be due again.